Vikings? Well, you may have heard about them, but you really don't know what they were. So I'm going to tell you what Vikings were. They're people from Scandinavia, Norway, the northern Icelandic areas. They raided to the east towards Russia and towards the west for Britain. Now they're only able to get to these places through voyaging with these massive, scary warships, mostly depicting serpents and dragons and other seaworthy animals that were scary to fend off creatures. And they mostly recorded all of these voyages and raids through things called sagas. Now, sagas were really your traditional storytelling, recordings, but they were made into books, and the books weren't 100% factual, but they were stories that were meant to be factual. Now, they loved to fight, they loved to raid. They had a lot of raids, but the very first and most influential raid was the raid of Lindisfarne. It is an island off the north coast of Northumbria, which is present-day North England. Now, this wasn't any old, just any old normal island. It was an island and a monastery, an Anglo-Saxon monastery for Christianity. Now, when these Vikings set sail towards the British Isles and they saw this monastery, all they saw was a bunch of gold, silver, jewelry, shiny things caught their attention. It was only defended by old women, old men, and some children, some monks, not a lot of defenses. So they definitely took this opportunity. Now when the raid ended, they made off with a lot of jewelry, a lot of silver, gold, shiny things. They killed pretty much everybody there, and anybody that they kept alive, they kept as slaves, so they can sell them, use them where they wanted to. HistoryExtra.com says that even though this wasn't the first time that Vikings were in the British area, this still made a massive blow towards Anglo-Saxon Christianity, which was caused because, people were devout followers of the Anglo-Saxon Christianity, and they said, hey, these pagans, these heathens just came into a monastery, a place of God, slaughtered the people. What's God going to do? How is he going to protect me if he can't protect his most devout followers? So that's why it was a pretty big impact towards it. Now, the only reason that they got this far to Lindisfarne was because of voyaging. And the voyage really started off, the Viking Age was the voyage to Lindisfarne, the very first one, really. And it was thought to be that the Norwegian Vikings, them in particular, were the ones that really drove towards and voyaged towards the west, towards the British Isles. Now, they didn't just voyage to raid and loot and all that. They also voyaged to create trade routes, create, more colonization, more areas for them to expand, do whatever they wanted. The Vikings of the Norwegian, Sweden, Scandinavian, and Denmark areas probably had to do this because the land started to become infertile, wasn't able to produce a lot of food, it started to become overpopulated. So because of overpopulation, more people, less food, rebellions were more likely to happen, which smaller communities which Vikings happened to group in wasn't really ideal for them. The dockyard states that the main reason for Norsemen's exodus towards more territory was probably due to the lack of available farming land, overpopulation, the climate conditions, and the viable prospects of trade in other lands. And because of the time frame of what was happening, which was between 880 and 1080, they used sagas because it was their own way of recording history, their own way of just spreading information in their way. Now, sagas have been around for a long time, but the most infamous one was the Volsunga saga, written in the 13th century by an unknown author. It starts with Odin's son, Siggy. He was a very brave, very expert hunter, but along came Bredi and his follower, Skadi. Bredi was also a devout hunter, a expert, and Siggy got pretty jealous, and out of a jealous rage, he killed Bredi and his body in the snow. Now Skadi, Bredi's follower, found his body and pretty much called Siggy out as an outlaw and banished him from the land. So what he did was he left. Timeless Myth states that later Siggy became king of the Huns. He made enemies in his reign, and among the enemies were his brothers in arms. And in his old age, his enemies got to him and killed him. Now, this is only the beginning of the saga. If I were able to try to cover the rest of it, it would take hours, maybe even a couple days. So it's just too much to cover. Vikings were, they raided a lot, they voyaged a lot just to colonize, raid, do whatever, expand. That's the main idea. And they did all of this, they recorded all of it through storytelling and through sagas. I want to leave you with one thing. Vikings, they were fierce warriors. They did what they wanted, when they wanted, and how they wanted. Hey, Nick, turn the camera on so she sees you. Yeah, that's good. Alright.